This is Chuck Huber, the voice of Android 17. You're listening to Anime Seekers. You better be, or I'm coming for you. Dragon of the Darkness, Flame!
Toku Secrets is a podcast run by the Anime Secrets website. Check us out at animesecrets.org for more anime, video game, tokusatsu content. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts today.
Oh, yes! This is Goldar, and you're listening to Toku Secrets Podcast. Don't tune us out, tune us in!
Welcome to Toku Secrets. Join us as we journey into the marvelous world of Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, and many other tokusatsu. Get ready for the adventure of a lifetime. It's Morphin time! Link to the Morphin. I'm Nathan Desai, the dazzling adventurer, Spoken Silver.
I'm Patrick Allen, I'm Shinken Red.
And I'm Ridwan Merchant, Gokai Red.
And I'm Anthony Davis, also known as Curie Green. And we're Toku Secrets.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Toku Secrets podcast presented by animesecrets.org. And today, we're taking a little bit of a break from Boom Boomger, just a short one, due to some behind-the-scenes issues. No need to worry, though. We will be back to Boom Boomger next week. But instead, we're going to be briefly covering a piece of series that holds a very near and dear place in our hearts here at the Toku Secrets podcast that just recently released. So for those who do not remember, we just recently covered season 3 of Power Rangers, the audio drama. And of course, naturally, they're going to be continuing with Zeo. We spoke about that in the podcast already. Now, as of the recording of this podcast, which is September 23rd of 2024, the first episode of the Zeo audio drama has been released. Now, we're not going to do episode by episode. We're going to at least we're going to try not to. We're going to try to do the whole series, but we do have a little bit of a prelude to Zeo called Revelations of Gold, which recently dropped a little bit ago. And so we're going to take a look at that and give our thoughts and just kind of get ourselves a little bit hyped for the upcoming Zeo thing. So
Now, before we dig into the prelude, I do want to respond to so the Scyther Audio people, Carl Dutton, Nathan Marchand, and the others, they do a after so podcast talking about their episodes of whatever episode they just released. So I listened to a good bit of the prelude to Zeo episodes after so, and I want to respond to Nathan Marchand by asking you guys, what were your thoughts on Rito basically wearing the pieces of Messina and not Messina, what's her name? The Gasket's wife?
Archerina,
yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Because he mentioned we didn't cover that in our podcast, and I'm like, well, if we didn't cover it in the podcast, guess what, Nathan? We're going to cover it now.
what are my thoughts on the Archerina thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember. I mean, was Archerina in season 3?
No, so Rito killed her off screen or off audio. What's the right word here?
Okay.
Anyway, and he basically made her Messine parts into armor for his new, after he came back from the Zidorian battle with the Messine Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And so he mentioned we didn't talk about it, and I'm like, hey, we got to talk about that now because we're being called out here.
I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I'll be honest. I guess I can kind of appreciate the fact that that it's just Gasket and they don't have Archerino around unless it does show up in Zeo in the actual, unless she later does show up in Zeo in the actual audio drama, in which case, I mean, that's perfectly fine. But honestly, I can't look at Gasket and Archerina's relationship the same ever again, knowing what the relationship was with between them and O Ranger. Which I'm not going to spoil that for Riz, but I think Anthony knows what I'm talking about. It's yeah, so that's all I can give. But I mean, at the same time, it does make Gasket a much more interesting character. That he has a little bit of a personal vendetta against Rito. I
Yeah.
mean, Gasket. I mean, honestly, Gasket was kind of one of the more forgettable things about Zeo, and I'm talking about the main series, not the audio drama. So it's
Yeah.
cool to just give him that level of motivation, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool thing. I thought it was honestly made Rito seem a little bit more. It gave a bit more bloodthirstiness to him
Yeah,
because he basically ripped apart his enemy and put her parts on his body as like a trophy, basically.
yeah,
And that's pretty awesome to me.
It's
But
the equivalent to basically ripping the flesh off of somebody and wearing it as your on your body.
yeah,
That's a difference.
basically, yeah, it's great. Rito is such a demented character, and it's kind of sad that he vanished for the time being.
yeah.
But
Oh, and one other thing before we jump in, I noticed that I think it was Carl posted this on the YouTube video that we posted here. I He said that he felt that season 2 became incredibly convoluted, like with the Time Force stuff and all that, which is why he kind of went back to the basic stuff with season 3, like like pretty much bringing it back down to like 3 Rangers instead of having like 2 different Ranger teams. And I can
yeah,
appreciate that Carl feels that way, and I admire him for deciding to go back to the basics. But I mean, Carl, as someone who thinks that season 2 was your best season, I really enjoyed that, man. So you shouldn't really sell yourself too short on that. Just want to say that there.
yeah.
I mean, I can kind of see why season 2 was not my favorite season. To be honest with you, is either between season 1 and season 2, and season 3.
I honestly love season 2 of the 3. That's my favorite. Season 3 is really good. It has a lot of like death in it, like Jar Jar Martin style death at the end with Kimberly's dad dying, Rito dying, everyone died. Everyone died. So I mean, it was Aisa
Yeah.
died. I mean, everyone's dying in that season. It's really heart wrenching. I mean, every time somebody died, I felt bad. Well, except when Rita died. When Rita died, I was like, okay, cool. You are no longer a threat. Now we can focus on a new threat.
But anyway, let's jump into Prelude to Zeo, Revelations of Gold.
Yeah.
Um,
So this episode is actually written by Zach Adamson, who plays Trey of Triforia in the audio drama. So whenever we get like these preludes or side stories or whatever, they're not normally written by Carl or Sane Cochran. They're written by somebody else. So, for example, Nathan Markstein is currently working on a Rito side story that I'm not going to talk too much about because I did listen to like some of the ideas that he's going to put into it in the after show, but I want to save that for another time. But
yeah.
it's kind of cool to see that the actors get a chance to take the characters that they like and that they have been and bring something to the table of their own to kind of make this character more their own. Because, I mean, these guys are basically owning the character. I mean, Zoe Sorless is Tommy in the season. Nathan Marchand is definitely going to be Rito for the rest of our lives. Now, as long as I know the guy, he's going to be Rito. So it's really cool to see like them taking it to the next level beyond just voicing and putting their souls into it. They're also getting creative and doing their own like spin on, hey, here's a cool thing that we want to give to the fandom to just extend the story even further.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna stop interrupting you now, Nate. Have fun.
No, that's cool. But anyway, to begin, so first of all, right from the starting gate, we got ourselves an Easter egg here. This is literally the name of one of the episodes of Zeo. It's the name of the episode of not necessarily the final episode of the Gold Ranger saga, but like the penultimate episode where we finally learn the identity of the Gold Ranger. So Revelations of Gold, same name, and most of this episode is told from like a past perspective. We actually find out at the end that so in case nobody remembers, at the end of season 3, one of Zedd's guards was revealed to be Trey of Triforia, and he stole the Zeo Crystal when Goldar was about to take it. And now, at the end of this episode, Trey is telling this whole story to Agent Mitchell. Sorry, my tongue got tied a little bit. And they want to learn the secrets of the Zeo Crystal so that they can create a new team of Zeo Rangers. But as far as the main story goes, Trey was born on the planet Triforia. His father was King Al-Malan, and his mother was Queen Tressa. And there were many centuries of peace, but Al-Malan was always prepared for war. He trained for Trey to do the same. And then one day, Prince Sprocket, he was the heir to the Machine Empire. He sent a message to Triforia announcing the imminent arrival of the Machine Empire and them determining whether or not they would annex Triforia. They were shown the Zeo Crystal. Trey was shown the Zeo Crystal. The story given is that Nare Ninjori, which is this universe's iteration of Ninjor, who's created many different powers. The Zeo Crystal was made to protect Triforia, and his father was the Gold Ranger. And the day that the Machine Empire arrived, Prince Sprocket said, well, this planet is unworthy to join the Machine Empire, so I'm just going to destroy it. And all of Triforia got destroyed. Trey managed to escape with the Zeo Crystal. His father was killed, and he took up the golden, well, they don't call it the Golden Power Staff, but it's the Golden Power Staff, to become the Gold Ranger himself. But then he got found by Zedd, and Zedd defeated him easily and stole the Zeo Crystal for himself. And he was made Zedd's hostage, which lines up with where he was in season 3. Couple of two other Easter eggs here. We get the debut of Pyramidas, the pyramid-like Zord of the Gold Ranger from Power Ranger Zeo. This is an adaptation of King Pyramider from Choriki Sentai O Ranger. I can't wait until we eventually cover some certain things because I got a lot to say about this mech, but I'll save that for later. But a more important thing is that we see the on-screen debut of the Zeo Rangers. They're depicted here as being powers that were initially used by the Royal Guards of Triforia. And the thing that I love about this series is that we get a story behind the shapes on their helmets. Because we didn't get that in Zeo, and we didn't get that in O Ranger. In this case, the shapes are symbols of Triforian culture. So pink oval of welcomeness, yellow oblongs of justice, blue triangle of wisdom, green rectangle of stability, and red star of power. You know what? I love that. I mean, I hate the Zeo suits and I hate those shapes on the helmets, but I'm glad they at least try to give a story behind those shapes. I guess they kind of tried to do it in Zeo by kind of like saying that like, oh, she's Zeo Ranger 1 pink, so it's one circle. Zeo Ranger 2 yellow, and she's got 2 little things on her helmet, and so on and so forth. But thank God we got an official explanation. I just love that. But yeah, what did you guys think about this whole thing?
So, do you want to go first, Anthony?
Let me just say one thing.
Okay.
Sprocket was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Especially all of the called the people with fleshies. That was kind of funny. That was kind of cute and funny.
Yeah. No, I definitely like that he calls everyone flessies because it kind of feeds into the idea of, these guys being all machine and not really being organic or lifelike or anything really like that. So I thought it was a really nice touch to kind of have that distinction thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to start off my thoughts with this episode by saying I love this so much because for, close to 30 years, we've had a lot of questions about what is life like on Triforia? What is life like on Aquitar? Life like on KO35? We don't really get these answers. Like, we don't really know. Okay, we kind of know that if you go to Aquitar, you're going to drown because you can't breathe underwater, but um, we knew next to nothing about Triforia. All we know is that they have this thing where you can like split into three people, and that's like you're basically one person but three bodies. But this episode gave us so much lore. And it goes even beyond like Nathan's comment about we get some idea why the states are what they are and what all that stuff. But to me, when I'm listening to this episode, I'm thinking of a faraway planet, which obviously we're talking about Triforce, so it is a faraway planet, and I can feel the energy of the planet. Like I can feel like, okay, this is a very peaceful place. Nothing really bad ever happens, but they're always on alert because they do have a power set there, and Mondo is trying to take over the world, and Zedd's trying to take over the world, and so they're building up. But to me, Triforia, from listening to this episode, it felt like a utopia, like a peaceful place where you can just like kind of live and prosper. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but to me, it seems like this is a place with no crime, no drama, no trouble. It's just a place where you can be happy and thrive, basically. It seemed very ideal. And I like that. I like that feeling that you get from listening to the Triforian lore and everything in that way.
Yeah, and I think it lines up with so unlike Aquatar, I think Triforia might be the only like big planet in the Zordon era that I don't remember us seeing any of, unless
We
I don't
didn't.
know,
We
unless
never.
maybe in Countdown to Destruction that planet that Rita and Zedd were attacking, where they were fighting the Gold Ranger on, maybe that was Triforia, although they don't actually state that. But yeah, Triforia. Well, okay, Eltar too, actually, unless you count later in Cosmic Fury. But Triforia is the only major planet in the Zordon era that we never saw anything of, because we saw Aquitar in some seasons, and there were at least one or two episodes of Power Rangers in Space where we saw KO35. But
And we saw Edenoi.
yeah, we saw Edenoi, yeah.
Yeah. So, I
But in
mean,
the case of Triforia, all we know about Triforia is that there's these aliens. They're a race. They're all peacekeepers, and they sometimes go to other planets to keep peace. And I like how
yeah.
they're establishing that Triforia is a place where there is no violence or war, because it lines up with the idea that, okay, we don't have any war to deal with ourselves, so let's go around and keep peace on other worlds.
Yeah. And I think it's just really cool that we have the family kind of set up in this way. We get to see Trey's family. We get to see the mom and the dad, and kind of get to know what they're all about. Like kind of.
Yeah. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, I was kind of skeptical of the idea that I guess I was somewhat skeptical initially for reasons that I can't remember of the Zeo Crystal having like some links to Triforia, especially since in the original lore it came from the M94 planet. But honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think it kind of makes sense because, I mean, the Gold Ranger powers always belonged Tri to Triforia. I mean, hence why Trey could use the Gold Ranger powers with no problem, but Jason, after a while, started to deal with like some very serious issues because his body couldn't handle the powers. I but then that kind of makes you wonder, well, they establish in the Gold Ranger's first episode that the that the Gold Ranger's powers is literally like a sixth Zeo Ranger. But then why would the Zeo Crystal be on this one planet and then this sixth power set be on a completely unrelated planet? Not to mention all of this, like how does a Zord that was clearly made on Triforia, Pyramidas, have the ability to combine with the Zeo Zords and even the Super Zeo Zords that were, well, okay, those Zords weren't actually connected to the Zeo powers. They were created by Billy. But yeah, there's just a lot of real. It's a confusing mess in terms of the lore with Zeo in the actual show, and I'll go more into detail on that when we get to it. But yeah, it does make sense that in this universe's lore, there's always they there's always a different type of power sets. Like we had 6 dinosaur power coins, with the sixth one being a little bit more powerful than the other 5, and then we got the 6 thunder coins, with the white one being a little bit more powerful than the other 5. And now here we have the Zeo Crystal, which was made to protect Triforia, and the Gold Ranger being the king of it. It messes up with the lore that they have around Ranger powers in this universe perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. And, to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, I also like that they provide that connection to Ninzori being the person that kind of helped establish Zeo Crystal power. Because that's something we didn't really get before either, like we didn't really get any explanation for where the Zeo Crystal came from. There's just a mythical power set. But here we can now say 4 power sets, at the very least, are created by Ninzori and are scattered across the universe. And Zedd brought 3 of them indirectly to Earth. And now the 4th one's come to Earth because Zedd is trying to just, he was being a dick over there. So they needed powers and they got them. And now Manda's going to continue doing that. So
Yep.
I do like all the connections that we're getting. And they're really, I think, I know I've said it before offline and in a podcast, but man, Carl Dutton and his team, because I can't explicitly say Carl Dutton anymore because now we got other writers also contributing stuff to this lore and connecting it all together. But these guys are really cleaning up a lot of the plot holes and a lot of the questions that we had, and just making a cohesive story that makes sense. I mean, I think this is all really awesome. And also, before we change topics, do you have anything else you want to say about like the lore building? Because I do want to kind of sift topics slightly within the episode.
All else I can say is that I love to take a bit of a jab at O Ranger. I love how they're how, even though the Gold Ranger is technically not called King Ranger, if he was called the King Ranger in this case, it would be a much better justification to call him the King Ranger as opposed to his O Ranger counterpart, because he's literally a king, and he's a really badass king.
Yeah.
As opposed to the actual King Ranger, who's not just a terrible character, but literally the only reason that they call him King Ranger is because like the O part of O Ranger is is a Japanese word for king. So
Oh yeah, because Osama, yeah, King Lords, yeah,
that's literally the only reason why they call him King Ranger.
yeah.
It's stupid.
It is, but here everything's just tied up really nicely,
Oh,
and
but don't worry. At some point, I'll get a chance to bash the worst sixth ranger in Sentai history, but that's a long time waiting.
I'll be there right there with you.
Hold up. Who do you think is the worst sixth ranger now? I forget what you.
I'm actually enjoying him on dunking on King Ranger because yeah.
Yeah, King Ranger. I think
Oh, he's the worst? Okay. Okay.
Well, in this season, I don't think he's the worst overall, but I think he's the worst as far as like in the season that he's in.
Okay. That's fair. I can understand that given he's a kid, from what I understand.
And Nate's gonna have to fight me on who's gonna roast him worse because I'm definitely gonna get on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, to shift topics a little bit to kind of bring up something else that I thought was really cool in this episode. And it's one of those things that I think if you blink and you just kind of pass over, you're never going to notice it or really give it the importance that it deserves. But they've brought the first female Red into the audio drama universe by having Trey's mom be the Red.
Oh yeah,
That was cool.
I thought it was really awesome.
Cool.
And I listened to at least a little bit of the after show. I didn't finish it because I've had a crazy work week, but I did like that they were able to bring in the mom as the Red Ranger. And I think Zach even went on record saying something to the effect of, yeah, the reason we brought her in and made her Red is because we wanted to bring a female Red in, but also I think they wanted to give some more prominence to the family, saying, hey, look, his dad is the King Ranger, the mom is the Red Ranger. So together, they're probably the most significant members of the Zeo Guard on Triforia, which makes sense if they're king and queen, right? Like, it just makes sense. But I think that's a really cool thing. And I really like when we can get stuff like that, where we get like representation to have a female leader of a team. Like, we didn't get that in the main series continuity until SPD with the A team, but that was such a short-lived thing. And then I know Lauren was also a Red in Samurai, but I don't really think I remember too much of that season to really have an opinion on it anymore. And so we didn't, in my mind, we didn't really get a full Red Ranger until Cosmic Fury. And I thought Amelia hit out of the park, but it's nice to see other continuities also having their own female Reds in here now.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I just think this is a really cool thing that they did. I just want to take a second to applaud them for that, because that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too.
Other things that I kind of made notes on in my mind. Oh, go ahead, Nate. What?
Oh no! I was going to ask if there was other things you wanted to add. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to add was I like the kind of tension building where Messina Empire is the one that does all the heavy lifting of taking over Triforia, but at the last second, Zedd swoops in and is like, "Nah, not today, Satan." And he's the one that eventually just is like, "Nope, you're my slave now. Nope, this is my crystal now. Nope, this is my staff." And he just takes everything and goes. I thought that adds a nice little twist to the drama, because it brings the continuity back to face, because Zeo Crystal's been there since the early episodes. I don't think it was in episode 1 of the audio drama, but it was definitely there from season 1.
Wait, what was there since episode 1?
The Zeo Crystal. No, I'm saying I don't think it was there since episode 1, but the Zeo Crystal has definitely been referenced a lot since season 1. So I think it's pretty cool that we had all these things kind of linked back, and they're being very careful with the continuity.
Oh, I got one more thing to say. I also do like the fact that when I try instead of doing like the three splitting of the three people, like how they did in Zeo and with Triforians, they decided to use that have 3 different lives, kind of like kind of like how cats, but like it's different because it's only you can get 3 of them. And if you die too soon, you might not be able to like even come back at all because you'll be dead for real.
Yeah. No, I think that's
It's
really
kind of
awesome
like a
too.
rebirth. Yeah, it's like a rebirth base. Like you die, you might be slightly younger because you're kind of going through like a recycle of rebirth, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely like that, Trey, when he realized he got regenerated, he was kind of panicking a little bit.
I'm just curious to know how they're gonna handle the whole like Triforians having like this split identity. Because and maybe they won't even do that. Which if they don't adapt that into this audio drama, I would absolutely not mind because I just found the whole like tray of courage, tray of wisdom, tray of heart thing to be kind of stupid. In all honesty,
Because they hired literally 3 triplets triplets to play as the character. So
yeah,
that's the
that's
only reason
Well,
they did that.
I mean, if you go behind the scenes, and this is going into a whole different topic now, but the I think their name was the Flippo triplets, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Um, they were brought in because behind the scenes, David Yost was gonna become gold, but he left because of all the harassment he faced on set by the crew.
Mhm.
And so they were kind of scrambling last second to be like, okay, so we don't have David anymore. What can we do for the Gold Ranger powers? Okay, here's this triplet. We can use the triplets here, and we'll make like this cool story for like Triforia and all that stuff. But honestly, it's such a half-baked idea that they didn't really get too far in it. And I know that the triplets have claimed that they had like a whole movie deal and a whole spin-off TV show and all that, but I don't think they really developed much of an idea beyond the idea of, hey, we're going to make a whole side story for these guys in the future and make a whole Triforian TV show and all that. Either it would never materialize or it was never into play to begin with. But I do like that Carl's team was able to kind of pick up that idea and run with it and build something that's pretty strong, in my opinion.
yeah for sure.
Yeah.
Although I don't think they ever truly intended to have Billy become the Gold Ranger. I'm pretty sure from their original plan, hence why they had Brad Hawkins voicing the guy in the early episodes, that they wanted to have the Ryan Steele VR Troopers character be the Gold Ranger so that they could canonize VR Troopers or something like that. I don't
Oh,
think
Brad
that Billy being
Hawkins?
the Gold Ranger, yeah.
Wasn't he too busy to do VR? I mean, I was VR troopers to be able to even do this. But I know he came back for
He
the
was.
vocals of Avi.
Yeah, he came back to do the vocals of Trey of Triforia because the triplets had a really bad accent, and they didn't want to have that accent on the American TV show.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that part. Maybe I guess there were maybe I don't know. Maybe new information has come to light, and maybe people were just speculating that they wanted Ryan Steele to be the Gold Ranger. But okay, if
No,
you
I did so. I don't know if you guys remember all this drama from a couple of years ago with the triplets on their Instagram page doing all kinds of garbage, but um, I paid a lot of attention to YouTubers back then who were digging into it, and they mentioned this in an interview that yeah, they wanted um, uh, Brad Hawkins to voice it because the triplets had a bad accent that they couldn't work with. It was not American enough for them or something.
okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's kind of a funny thing that they had this huge argument, and they were saying, "Well, who's the original Gold Ranger? Is it Brad Hawkins? Is it the triplets? Is it Austin St. John?" My answer is all of the above. I don't really care, but people got really into it.
Nah, that's just. I mean, that just seems like a pointless and like useless argument, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, do we have let's not talk about like fandom stuff. Like, do we have anything else we want to add on this particular installment into the audio drama?
I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of talk about things that are coming up in the audio drama this season.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have any like fan theories or things that you would like to see happen, I will say without saying too much more because I know Nathan hasn't listened to it yet, but on the Scyther Audio Drama Discord, they had a Power Ranger channel originally called the Command Center, and I noticed a couple of weeks ago that they renamed that channel to the UAOH space. Just to give you all some idea of,
Yeah,
things.
that's no Ranger reference.
Yeah. So there will be some O-Ranger references down the line, I think. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas or things that you want to see happen this season, I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking right now for what's going to happen. I know me and Anthony are at a little bit of a disadvantage because we already listened to episode 1, but Nate, I'm more interested in what you're like
Wait,
hoping
okay.
for.
My first big thing is, do they establish that that Prince Sprocket was already like, was Prince Sprocket one of the people who was mounted on Lord Zedd's wall in season 3?
I believe he was, yeah.
Okay, then. All right, that sucks then that we won't get to see like Sprocket kind of grow up into an adult as Gasket, but not a big deal.
Well, I mean, that can still happen because remember, you can rebuild a robot if you have all the data banks and everything. So it could still happen.
Okay, because I would personally hope that would be the case. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I'm just hoping that the Machine Empire will be as interesting of characters as how they've made Rita and Zedd out to be.
Yeah.
I would potentially like to think that maybe the Zeozords are built by Agent Mitchell's team, because that would be a cool like parallel to how the Zeozords were not like the Zeozords. I think are the only Zords in Zordon era lore that were not like ancient Zords that existed thousands of years ago. Like they established that those Zords were made, not the Super Zeozords, but the Zeozords were made by Billy. And so you could kind of that could be a cool parallel to like O-Ranger.
But the Turbo Zords and the Astro Megazord too, right?
Well, okay, not the Astro Megazord. Because, yeah, okay, the Astro Megazord was belonged to the people of KO35. I think that I can't remember the story behind the Turbo Zords though.
Well,
like
that's the thing. If I remember the Turbo movie correctly, they don't really explain where these new Zords and powers came from. But there's a lot of fan theory and support saying that Billy made them.
Yeah, I guess that could be the case. But my point is that like having the Zeozords be created as by Agent Mitchell's unit. I mean, that would be a cool parallel to kind of how like the military background of the O-Rangers. But I mean, aside from that, I can't really say anything else that I really hope, because here's the thing. I mean, O-Ranger is a boring Sentai with not that much story, so I don't really know what they could bring from O-Ranger aside from just the military background. And in the case of Zeo, I mean, the only two major things that I remember happening in terms of plot is that you have that, I guess, 2-part episode, maybe a 3-part episode, where Tommy has that whole thing with David, which, okay, maybe you could have a little bit of drama between Tommy and David again. But aside from that, the only other major story besides Bulk and Skull's little shenanigans with like, oh, they get Lieutenant Stone fired and then they become detectives. Like, aside from that, the only other thing that happens is that there's like a 10-episode period where, who's this Gold Ranger? Is it Tommy's brother? Is it Billy? Is it Skull? Is it this random dude? Like,
yeah, that was the only thing that was really going on. And I can still remember that there was like this. I mean, technically it's a two-parter, but technically if you watch the episode before the two-parter, it's a three-parter. Where it's King for a Day with Tommy getting abducted by the Machine Empire, and he gets brainwashed and thinking that he's the king and all that. Blah blah blah. Really, it's a really good two-parter. I to this day I still like it. It's like it's one like it's the only highlight besides Zero Range Gold's debut is my favorite episodes.
Yeah. Although, well, no, I liked the Alien Ranger team up episode too. So
Yeah. I would love to see somehow that they bring the Aquitar Rangers for that team up somehow in the season. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Maybe not with the powers. Maybe like they have something to give the Rangers. I don't know, but it'd be cool to have a way to have them team up and do something like even like Delphine come to the base and help out somehow, provide Aquitar technology to help. Maybe build a Zord. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to see something happen though with the Alien Rangers.
I mean, if they wanted to adapt this technical element from the main series, they could bring in the Alien Rangers when they're creating the Red Battlezord / Red Puncher, because even though this didn't really play into the story that much, they establish when Billy creates the Red Battlezord that they created it with. They gave Tommy a telepathic link to it, which Billy was inspired to do from the Alien Rangers as Battleborgs. So they could potentially do that.
And I mean, it'd be perfect to have like some kind of Aquitar relation, so that way Billy can kind of. So at the end of season 3, if you remember, they had the entire like time sickness thing kind of being brought up. Which if you watch the main series, that's where Billy starts to age rapidly. So it'd be kind of cool to have the Aquitar Rangers come in to help it with that as well.
Mm-hmm. And maybe this is just too. Maybe this is unreasonable, but I don't know. Since they decided to give Masked Rider a little bit of a cameo, I don't know. Maybe you could give a cameo from another Saban series that was airing at the same time of Zeo. I think it was called Big Bad Beetleborgs.
Big Bad Beetleborgs. Yeah, I'd love that, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I get why
That'd be great, though.
How they had Masked Rider show up. I get why they had Masked Rider show up in season 3 because he did a team up with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They never had a crossover between VR Troopers and Power Rangers or Big Bad Beetleborgs and Power Rangers. But again, if they don't do this, I'm not going to be disappointed. But if they wanted to, I mean, that'd be cool.
I wouldn't say no.
Yeah.
I would like down the line. I think around the Turbo in space time frame, they had Mystic Knights of Tyranny No coming out as well. I'd love to see that kind of blend back into the audio drama, but again, I doubt Carl has the bandwidth to figure out all that.
Yeah, I mean, if they just want to like drop maybe a subtle reference to Big Bad Beetleborgs, like, oh hey, did you hear about this attack that happened in the city of Charterville? Charterville is where the Big Bad Beetleborgs takes place, or someone like that. I mean, that would be fine. I mean, kind of like how when Batman Forever, as lame as that movie is, there's a brief moment where Batman mentions Metropolis and just say, "Oh, haha, it's funny because Superman is in this universe," something like that.
Wait, was it Batman Forever or was it Batman and Robin?
No, it was Batman Forever, the one with Val Kilmer.
I distinctly remember they made a reference to Superman. Well, actually, no, it was actually a direct reference to Superman in the third movie.
Yeah, they did that.
Yeah.
But
he was like, "This is why Superman was alone," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things wrong with Batman and Robin.
I mean, say what you will about Batman Forever, I still think that's a better movie. It's better than Batman and Robin by a far. Better than Batman and Robin.
But yeah, but as far as what I want to see with the Zeo audio drama, I mean, I just want Carl Dutton to just stay the course, and if he can make Zeo out to be a bit more interesting than its actual main series counterpart, which I have full faith in him to be able to do that. I'll have to take my hat off to him because, like I said in our little live stream before, Zeo was probably like the most pointless season out of all the Zordon era seasons. So I really want to see how Carl Dutton is going to be able to handle this.
So I'm going to vague book real quickly and say, having listened to episode 1 of Zeo, man, they hit the ground running. So they're doing some good stuff right now. You're going to be very happy when you get there, Nate.
Okay, I definitely know what I'm going to be checking out after we finish this podcast.
There we go. We got Nathan to listen to the episodes before it all comes out.
Yep. But do we have anything else we want to say, guys?
Zeo.
All right. Well, in that case, guys, for everyone listening, we thank you guys so much for listening to this little brief mini podcast. We will be covering the Zeo audio drama when it has come out and finished completely. And we will, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to get some of these, the minds behind the audio drama on the podcast at some point, hopefully soon. But for our upcoming schedule, we are going to be returning to Boom Boomger again to cover all the remaining episodes that have come out. We will be completely caught up. Then we will be starting Go Onger. A little bit of a disclaimer about Go Onger. Since all 4 of us, so the 3 of us on this podcast, as well as Patrick, have been, we've kind of had some stuff come up with our personal lives. So we're going to be cutting down on the number of episodes that we are going to be covering, but we're still going to bring you at least 5 episodes per podcast, sometimes even more, depending on what the story entails. But yeah, definitely look forward to us checking out Boom Boomger to get caught up. We will definitely give our brief thoughts on the Sentai 2025 trademark when it releases. Hopefully we'll be able to know if it's legit or not, since there's been a lot of trolls active online giving us ones that are clearly not true. But yeah, we'll give our reaction to that, and we are looking forward to revisiting Go Onger as our next Sentai. So with that said, we will see you guys next time when we return to Boom Boomger, and we will be covering the Zeo audio drama the minute that it finishes. But until then, bye for now. If you enjoyed listening to the Toku Secrets podcast, please check us out at animesecrets.org and follow us on all our social media pages such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also feel free to check out our other podcasts, including Anime Declassified and the Jedi Squadron. You can also leave us any feedback you'd like to offer us directly on our website. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, we thank you so much, and please leave us a rating out of 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and leave any comments down below, as we love to take the time to read comments left on our channel and give our fans, shout-outs. If you have any seasons of Super Sentai, Power Rangers, or other tokusatsu shows that you'd like for us to check out, please don't hesitate to say so in your feedback. With all that said, we thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our podcast, and we will see you next time as we continue our never-ending journey through the world of tokusatsu. But until that time, you all stay safe, we love you, and may the power protect you.